Sure. I'm Candid Frank Stanisci. Welcome to the program. It's called Lacrosse Talk here on Spanglish World Network on Zingo TV, channel 250. Please remember to download the Zingo TV app at the respective app stores for iOS and Android devices. While you download, make sure to rate and leave a comment. Both apps are absolutely free. Zingo TV is also available on Google Chromecast, Amazon Fire, Fire TV sticks, Roku sticks, and also on all smart TVs 2016 forward. Now on Lacrosse Talk, joining me is Gary Groob. Gary, how you doing?
I am great, Frank, and we have a fabulous guest this week. I'm so excited once he gets himself together and gets onto our screen here. Seems to be our weekly thing here. Let's get our guest on, please. I did see him on here earlier, so I know he's coming. I know he's coming.
People wonder maybe why it was taking so long to do the opening. I was killing time. It didn't work. He didn't make it on. So, all right. So first of all, maybe we'll save talking about him till we get there. What's the latest on the National Lacrosse League? We know the season's coming back.
Ed's with us.
Yeah, it's cool. We'll get to Ed. He's almost here.
Well, we got huge news, eh? Huge news.
Yeah. Lay it on the line, man. Tell it like it is.
I'm on.
That's awesome. The IOC, the Olympic Committee, has granted lacrosse its actual stay there. It's now in the Olympics,
which is great.
So that's massive news.
Yeah, that's great. That's great.
It's great news, is right. So joining us is Ed Tepper, former owner. You're a master of everything. A long list of things that Ed Tepper has done. So tell us a little bit first, Gary, about this guy. This is his life. Lay it on the line.
Well, Ed's a winner in everything he has done. An excellent real estate developer, lifelong, and still a developer. Back in the early 70s, him and his longtime friend Ed Snyder of Philadelphia Flyer fame, they decided that it was going to be something to keep everything going in the spectrum. So he became the owner of the original Philadelphia Wings of 74 and 75 fame. He, through a fluke, and we're going to talk about this, he went to see an indoor soccer game at the Spectrum between the NASL champion Philadelphia team and the Red Army Russian team. And he was reaching to look at the AstroTurf, and because at that time they were still playing on wooden floors, to see how that would work on the lacrosse game. Now, we see it now that the AstroTurf is a big stay with lacrosse. But what happened was he fell in love with this indoor soccer game and the high scoring and the fast pitch and everything else. And I'll obviously be able to see the ball from every single angle as opposed to watching outdoor soccer. And lo and behold, a couple years later, the Major Indoor Soccer League was born. So we're going to get right into it with Ed. How did all this start? How did you get involved with Ed Snyder and about the Wings in 1974?
Ed Snyder is a personal friend back then. Unfortunately, today he's deceased. But there was a fellow by the name of Jim Bishop and Morley Kells, right? And that they were putting together a league for lacrosse. I've never seen lacrosse, indoor lacrosse. Anyway, Ed said to me, you always wanted to own a team. Why don't you look into it? Okay. Meanwhile, Ed owned the Philadelphia Flyers. The Philadelphia Flyers was the hottest ticket 1974. Well, even today, but and remember something: Philadelphia is not a hockey town. They didn't even know from hockey. So anyway, I met with Kells and Bishop, and I liked what they were doing, but I'll tell you what's most important. They sent me a tape of the Man Cup, and in the Man Cup, it was a Man Cup final. All I saw was scoring and fighting, and I said, "Oh my God, this is for Philadelphia." So anyway, when I purchased a franchise, I took that tape with no experience, and I went down to a local TV station, and I put together a commercial. I wish I had it today. That showed fighting and scoring. Okay, and we played this commercial during the Flyers game, the Flyers Stanley Cup games, and my phone just rang off the hook, and I sold 3,500 season tickets. Nobody has seen Fox Lacrosse.
That's crazy. That's great. But Frank, isn't that what Darius Kilgore said? You make
Which-
tickets cheap. You have what, $10 tickets, $2 beers, and 3 fights a game, and you can sell it anywhere. It's the truth. It worked back then. It would still work today. That's wonderful. You also had something when you started your very first game. The Flyers won the Stanley Cup that afternoon.
It is May 19th, 1974. I believe it was a Sunday, and the Flyers won the Stanley Cup. And now we're playing at 7:00. But they played in the afternoon. And my people came to me, and we couldn't get the Flyers fans out of the Spectrum or the Flyers out of their locker room, which was one hell of a start for us. But we ended up with a crowd of 12,000 people, which is amazing.
Oh, yeah.
And even today, I was going over some notes. The Philadelphia team in box lacrosse put out something for a name, picked a name. And 47 years later, they still use the name Wings. Mm-hmm. And the fans love it. It's a great sport. And, and so is indoor soccer, of course, which I started. Mm-hmm. So it's been a good life, an exciting life. Mm-hmm.
Well, I want to go back just a bit. When you're talking about the Wings name, it was genius because you branded with the Philadelphia Flyers, with the jerseys looking almost the same, with the logos being close, so that the Flyers fans could be synonymous and gravitate right to that product.
You're trying to say that I copied that?
No, I'm trying to say that it was a genius move.
Well, if he doesn't say it, Ed, I will. I mean, I don't think there's that far a difference between a flyer and a wing, if you understand what I'm saying.
I know what you're saying. I know exactly what you're saying.
I know you know what I'm saying.
It's in with the motif of the city, right? You had the Eagle too, right? So fly away we go.
And what's amazing is that in the course of the season, we had a Bobby Clark night. We have a Dave Schultz night. But in getting started, I hope I'm not jumping around you guys. There was a fellow by the name of Barry Ashby. Mm-hmm. Making, rest in peace.
Yeah.
And somebody says Barry loves lacrosse. So I contacted Barry, and Barry came in as a vice president. And what a gentleman he was. What a terrific guy he was. And a great defenseman. Then somebody came to me and said, I got somebody who wants to play for you. His name is Dougie Favell. So I said, Dougie Favell? I said, he doesn't want to be a goalie in this league, He said, no. He's a forward. So I contacted Dougie, and Dougie came in, and Dougie played with us the first season.
That's right.
And it's a real gentleman, a real showman. It's a good man.
And a Maple Leaf.
Well, let me give you something here.
Maple Leaf.
He was negotiating with, I think the guy's name was Jim Gregory.
Right.
Right. And the contract. So he is now going to play lacrosse, and Toronto is really upset that he's playing the sport. Mm-hmm. Other than that, he can get hurt. And I had another friend by the name of Fred Shiro,
Coach of
and
the Flyers.
the coach of the Flyers, and a great gentleman. He's not with us today, but he was great. And I'm with Fred, and I said to Fred, Toronto, is upset about this. And Fred said, "You can get killed crossing the street. What are they talking about?" So that's what happened. So I had a lot of support from the Flyers, from the players, from the front office. Started.
Ed, you found out this the connection very early, obviously in Philadelphia between hockey and lacrosse. I'm sure it wasn't. It didn't begin and end with Doug Favell. There were a lot of other players who played hockey and of course lacrosse as well. How surprised were you at the connection of the two sports? I mean, knowing that they're both played in North America.
Well, I never knew that until this period of time. When I purchased a franchise, that these guys played hockey and lacrosse. But and the funniest thing is that there was a fellow by the name of Carm Collins who was our first draft choice, and we picked Carm Collins because he could fight. And that's what sells tickets in Philadelphia. But getting back to your question, yeah, and they're both skilled sports. They're both Canadian sports, and and there were good days. There were good days. We had a great following. The players were great. We used to. Most of the players came out of Peterborough,
Right.
and if we had a game tonight, they would get on a DC-3 plane, fly to Philadelphia, play the game, and then take the same plane and go home. We never had the guys stay over until the second year. So it was a real setup, a real startup the first year.
Well, you had some great players too. You had John Grant. You had a former of ours, Jim Watson, Wayne Platt. How did they all bond together? I know there are a lot of Peterborough guys, but how did they bond? And with the fans and everything.
Well, these guys were loved by the city. It was unbelievable. It all happened so fast, and they were great. Look, the salaries were not great. Let's face it. Way back then. But it's these guys. These guys took to the city, and any personal appearances, they were there, and they were so good for the sport. And an amazing thing is that before the epidemic, a fellow by the name of Andy Abramson, who I hired when he was like 14, 15 years old, and he just loved the players and they loved him. And Andy put together a reunion of the Wings in Philadelphia. And everybody, the turnout was going to be great. And then this epidemic came and it never came. But, I could envision, maybe in a year or two to have a reunion of all the players. It was great for them because they became professionals that the city loved, that the fans loved. And this is something for them, all their career that they played lacrosse. This never happened. So, it was great to give give them the opportunity. It was just fantastic.
Ed, when you decided to get involved in land developing, what was the transition from? You were a developer before you decided to get involved in sports, yes?
Yes.
So the money that you made as a developer, you thought there was a good investment in lacrosse?
Well, of course, my friend Ed Snyder bought the Flyers when nobody knew what the Flyers were.
Right.
And look what they became.
Yeah.
And using that as a model, is a reason I went into it, because I thought it was a good business venture.
Yeah, because right now, Ed, I don't know how well you're keeping track of the changes in the NLL. Are you up to date with what's going on in the NLL?
No, I'm not. Except that the commissioner's a friend of mine.
Sakavitz?
Yes.
Of
Yeah.
course,
So
of course.
yeah. So now, right now, what's going on in the National Lacrosse League under Sakavitz's guidance? There are a lot of people with serious money feeling the same about the National Lacrosse League, that it's a good venture, a good investment, that type of thing. How happy are you to know that what you believed in way back when is finally getting the kind of respect in the financial world, something it hasn't had? This is kind of new to the National Lacrosse League. I'm not talking new as in tomorrow or yesterday. I'm talking in the last couple of years. How happy does it make you feel?
It makes me feel great because this is. I was 36 years old, and I.
What are you now? 40? What are you now? 40?
41.
41. Okay,
No, but I was 36 years old, and it was exciting to be involved. I really loved it. I used to travel with the Flyers, and that sort of set me up, into sports. But it's great to know that it's around. Let me put it this. Eventually, it's going to catch on and be big throughout the country. But it's like anything else. It's it takes money.
Mm-hmm.
but it also takes interest, and you saw something in the game that I think a lot of people are beginning to see and will be seeing. When I think of people like you, if it wasn't for people like you that started this, people who did the kind of investing and the kind of personal, and I think for you it sounds like, I'm glad to hear it, and it doesn't surprise me. For you, it was a personal experience. It wasn't just about looking for a place to place capital. It was also, I guess, a little bit kind of had a where to place your heart as far as what you love about sports, because some people need to get in deep in it, and it sounds like you were one of those guys.
Well, what one of the things that really encouraged me is that the players were so real and so fan oriented.
Mm-hmm.
And it was great. It was great. And the fact, and I agree with you, the fact that the so-called, not me, the heavy hitters, the people to invest are coming up. It's going to be bigger than ever. And, I look forward to it.
The connection as well. We always, like, the Flyers are a great example, right? In the National Hockey League, and it still continues today. In fact, a lot of the NLL teams are owned by NHL teams. So there's always been this symbiosis between the sports, and it's not just about hockey, it's not just about football, it's not just about indoor football. It's almost as though when somebody gets the opportunity to be successful in one area, for example, have a hockey team, the natural reaction today, which was not new, was not a good not a well-known idea back in Ed Snyder's days. He was revolutionary in connecting teams and bringing other teams in. That wasn't something that was common, was it?
No, not, someone once said to me that people buy sports franchises for for the two G's. And the first one is glamour.
Right.
They've always got a good seat at the restaurant. And the other one is greed, because they figure they're going to come in at X amount of dollars, and 10 years down the road sell it for so many million. So um, the business aspect of the game, it's so important because it's all to answer you. Some, they come in, they buy a franchise, they think they run it. All right. It's not like your other businesses. It's a different business. You got to turn this over to somebody who knows how to market sports. And I'm hoping that that's what happens now, with the league now.
Yeah, you're so right. Over here we do see some in the past. There have been some holes in selling the game. Slowly but surely, what's happening under Sejkiewicz's guidance, and also the fact that he's laying a platform of ownership that is unheard of in the National Lacrosse League. I apologize. That now there is an opportunity for that success to take place, deep and wide, and with a great foundation to boot. Because it's one thing to invest money, it's one thing to find really good players, but you really do need a system in place, a structure, if you will, not just on the bench or in the dressing room, but a structure that the league has that allows it to move forward and be successful. Money doesn't buy success. You're 100% right. Marketing and what you do to promote the game matters extensively, if you want to be successful at that other G word, greed.
Green.
Now I want to talk about that very fateful day, February 11, 74. You were in Toronto actually before that for lacrosse, and Ed called you and wanted you to check out this indoor soccer game about turf and how that would work.
You're right on target. Ed called me. He said, when you fly in, come to the Spectrum. There's an event here, and they're using Astroturf, and we'll have dinner, and we'll just look at it, because it was indoor soccer, played on a goal that was 4x16, right? It's not like indoor soccer today. And I'll never forget being in the box with Ed, and we're looking at it, and I said to Ed, this is the way soccer will sell. And at that time too, and I'm jumping into another sport line. At that time too, there was an outdoor league, and they had
North American Soccer League.
The North American Soccer League, right? And they had it where you had to have 2 Americans on a squad. You had to have it, and you had to have one on the field all the time. And I'm saying to myself, with all the millions of kids that are playing, what is happening where you can't, use American players or Canadian players in the same? So anyway, that's how indoor soccer.
Well, what went through your mind when you're watching the game itself? It's just like this is it. Like the light bulb came on, and the investor in you.
No, I'll tell you what happened. The Philadelphia outdoor team was owned by Mexicans from Guadalajara, and they needed somebody to run the team. Okay, and somebody came to me and said, "Would you be interested?" I said, "I wouldn't put a dime in it, but I'll run it," because I had to learn about soccer.
Right.
I had to learn about it. So I got to know all the owners. I got to know all the, all the players and something. And it sort of indoctrinated me to the sport. And at that time, I went to the NASL and I said, look, I'm going to put together an indoor soccer. Are you interested? Absolutely not. Okay. And the truth was that they had 24 teams at the time. And out of the 24 teams, 18 of them didn't gross 18,000 a game. They had Pele and the Cosmos. So a lot of it wasn't real.
Right.
And what I did, and this is interesting, and again, with the help of Ed, in starting a league, I partner with Earl Foreman,
mm-hmm.
who had the Virginia Squires, who had a million teams, and happened to be Ed's brother-in-law. And what we did is that at Madison Square Garden, we invited the owners or the managers of the indoor arenas to come in. And we told them that we could give them an event, to fill the date and can possibly be, profitable for them. And got started. But lacrosse becoming very big again in Philadelphia. It's something I'm looking forward to.
Well, the stage is set for that to happen. That's for sure. When you were involved, the North American Soccer League, that was more or less the first time there was major soccer in North America. We had the Blizzard up here in Toronto. Another guy that played was Giorgio Canaglia. The New York team, the Cosmos, had some really big players. They were paying them, like Pele, a lot of money. What it sounds like is they barely had enough money to pay those guys, and the league was financially, I guess, being hunted down by bankruptcy almost. Eventually, it suffered that loss. At that point, you went to the North American Soccer League, to see if they were interested in indoor soccer. You basically had a league that took over when they sort of disappeared, correct?
Yes. Yes. In fact, if it wasn't for indoor soccer, we would not have gotten the World Cup. I guess it was my years. I think in '94, because you had to have a professional league operating in order. But I want to take there's a lot has to do. Indoor soccer is very successful. There is big money, and they're running the stadiums first, because you can't have a 60,000 seat stadium and have 20,000 people in there. You just build the 20,000 seats. So that's worked out well. They're good people, good owners, a good commissioner, and it's taken Philadelphia. It's done very well in Philadelphia.
Yeah, marketing is really important, and sometimes the Boston Red Sox system works. A lot of organizations are realizing that maybe it's better not to have as big a stadium, but have supply and demand are two key words when it comes to marketing, right? If you have too much supply, the demand is not as good, and then the perception becomes something negative, right?
Well, when people go there and they see a lot of empty seats, they will say, "Well, why am I here?" You have to. It's like indoor soccer now. They're trying to find facilities with 7,500 seats, and that would be terrific, because that's all you need.
Yeah, it's perception.
And oh yeah.
But you were able to package, even back then, this more like a real estate deal, because you went and got the arenas ready, and when people wanted it, they would go in and they would talk to the arenas, and you had everything set up. How was your point? How did you sell this league to potential owners?
Well, first of all, I made contact with the owners of the facilities, and they went to their managers, and they went out to look for the owners to try to find people to purchase a franchise. So we had a lot of people working for us. It's like in real estate, you have a development, but you can't do it all. You have to go to all the brokers,
Right.
And actually that they were the brokers, but we had some great brokers. We had Jerry Buss. We had Sonny Werblin. We had DiBartolo. we had some excellent people in our early.
Yeah, the owners all the owners you're talking about owned other, important sports franchise, and they went over to soccer to help out, and they knew they understood sport. That was important, I guess, to get the MISL out of major indoor soccer off the ground. You needed people who understood running a sports franchise.
Exactly, and we had Earl Foreman was a commissioner, and Earl has so much experience, and I stayed on it as a deputy commissioner. So we were doing it together, but it's strange, We're sitting at we cut a deal with USA TV, and they were doing a game of the week, and what I arranged is for, if the game was in Buffalo, for our announcers to fly up a day earlier and have a luncheon, the same way football did it, in the beginning, and to really make it a great event. And we're at a league meeting, and somebody said to Earl, how much are we making out of TV? We're not. We're just getting the exposure. Well, that's not right. That's not right. This is our product. If they want it, they got to pay for it. And I looked at Earl, and Earl looked like me. So they formed a committee, a TV committee. And they went back to Kay Koplowitz, I'll never forget, and said, we want money for this. And they took a rating to find out what our ratings were. Our ratings weren't great. We were a fledgling league. And that was the NWSA. It's once you turn it over to people who don't understand the business, it's a shame. It's a shame. It's caused a lot of havoc.
But you had one TV executive, Bob Wessler, who
I
believed
loved
in
him.
the product.
Yeah, Bob Wessler. God, everybody's going today. Bob Wessler believed in the product, and Bob Wessler got us on. What was the channel? I can't even think. Throughout the country, okay, and Bob Wessler. This is a great story for you guys. Bob Wessler introduced me to a guy by the name of Jimmy the Greek. Okay. Now, I don't know how old you are, but back then, Jimmy the Greek would give you the winners every Sunday. He was a folk hero. Okay. And to show you the kind of folk hero was, he was doing a Chicago Bears game. He came to Philadelphia. He called me. He says, I'm going to be in town. I want to go to Bookbinders for dinner. I said, sure. And we walked into Bookbinders, and everybody in the kitchen came out to see him. He just had that attraction. I'd walk down the street with him. Everyone knew Jimmy the Greek, okay? So I said, Jimmy, can you get us a line on indoor soccer? And we went back and forth, and it ended up, Jimmy put us in 81 newspapers. 81 newspapers, okay? And Jimmy, and it worked, but Jimmy wanted to be paid, okay? So we're at a meeting, and we're sitting there, and Earl and I lay it out, and Joe Robbie said, he owned the Dolphins, right? He said, I'm not paying anyone to put a line on my game. You do that, I'm walking out of here. So that didn't work. But meanwhile, every PR director said that they set up the line. Well, I did it with Jimmy. I said, Jimmy.
His mom would like to remind everybody his last name was Snyder.
Yeah, that's right. Very good. I never thought of that.
I was a big fan of his. You know, back in his day, you know, it was him, Howard Cosell, and there were very few people who had, you know, that cachet, that you know, the people. Whenever he started talking, I know it sounds silly. It sounds like a commercial. It sounds like one of those investment commercials. But when they talked, people did listen. Howard Cosell was another one of those guys, you know, that when they spoke, people listened. They truly did. And what was it about? Just a little bit about Jimmy. What else did you know about Jimmy that made him so attractive to people to listen to? Obviously, he knew the numbers well, you know, and he was ahead of his time as well. Because right now, you know, Jimmy the Greek's world is exploding, you know, in sports world.
Can you imagine him today?
Can you imagine? That's exactly what
Yeah.
I'm trying to get at. He would be the king of the world right now if he was still around.
Jimmy,
The money that's in gambling right now and in sports.
Mm-hmm.
God,
Legally.
legally is right. Jimmy was Jimmy. Jimmy loved people.
He did.
Jimmy didn't pretend to be anybody that he wasn't. It's like in the restaurant when the people came out from the kitchen. He was delighted. If there's people at another table having dinner, well, the kitchen people come first. Jimmy was just he was a people person.
Yeah, he didn't.
And
The only shtick he had was his name. The rest of him was pretty obvious. You know, he was pretty straightforward. You know, he spoke right from the hip.
absolutely, I'm in the office one day, and my assistant says to me, "There's somebody on the phone by the name of Don Meredith.
Yeah,
Remember him?
dandy.
Dandy." So I pick up the call. I said, "This is going to be a joke," but he heard about the league. You know, he called me to wish me well, and he was a class guy.
Right.
God, God, breath, God, it was way back. But Jimmy the Greek today would be he's Jimmy the Greek.
Can I ask you? You know, we've got lots of time left. We're with Edward Barry Tepper. He's been inducted in the Hall of Fame, the Missile Hall of Fame. You were born in Baltimore, Maryland. You were the founder of MISL, Major Indoor Soccer. You were involved deeply in with the Flyers. A good friend, Ed Snyder. You know, this is a personal question. I want to ask this question. So, what team are you going to buy on your 100th birthday? I just want to know, like, because you know, sir, you are amazing. You know,
Yep.
you know, come March, you'll be 98 years old.
No, wait, stop there. You have me mixed up
Do I?
with Earl for me. Earl was born in
Earl. Yeah.
Baltimore, right? If
Okay.
Earl died when he was 93 a couple of years ago, but for some reason, if you go on to something, they have me.
I'm here on the Indoor Soccer Hall of Fame.
Yeah, they had the numbers backwards. I saw that too.
Well, that. But I'm getting old, but not that old.
We got a ways to go before the 100th birthday. Maybe we can get one for your 90th birthday. We get a good team.
Well, it's funny because there's a lot of reunions today, and I look forward to, by the way, the one for lacrosse. I would love to see those guys, with their bare bellies and everything else, but
well earned beer bellies at that.
But anyway, it's good to know that things are still around. There are people watching it, and most important, it's something for the players.
Right.
If there's a youngster in Peterborough today that he could become a professional, he could become a professional, and that's what's important. And the same thing with soccer. You know, we took the American and the Canadian players. I look at that as one, and and we developed them to the indoor game. And we took they taught us the indoor game. It's amazing how fast that they learned it, and the fans love it.
But you were way ahead of your time with that league, because it wasn't just a game; it was a spectacle. You had all the stuff that what draws people now, the WWE kind of factor. Back then, you had all of this stuff.
Well, you take your helmet because this is funny. We went out and we got smoke machines, and during the game we played rock music. Right, it was unheard of. And Sports Illustrated did a story on it. Okay, and if you're a soccer purist, you hated Ed Tepper and Earl Foreman because for soccer, we sold show business, you know.
Right.
And today, you can go to an indoor sporting event that doesn't have the smoke machine and the music and everything else. So,
yeah. The Vegas hockey team has proven that.
Yeah.
The question is, how did you go from deputy commissioner to an owner of the New Jersey Rockets? How did that happen?
By mistake. No, Earl and I were each entitled to a franchise for putting the league together. And we were told that the Meadowlands Arena is going to be bigger than the Spectrum and Madison Square Garden.
Mm-hmm.
Okay? That is going to be it. And the Cosmos play in the, and I wanted to operate it myself to make sure that it's successful. Because if we made it there, it's like, no, you make it there, you can make it anywhere.
Mm-hmm.
And I want to tell you, and Sonny Werblin helped me get the lease and all. The arena's in the middle. I don't know. The arena never made it.
Mm.
We thought it was going to be, utopia. The greatest thing since the Garden, and it never made it.
Right.
And it, as of today, I don't know if they have a professional team in there.
So when the league actually did fizzle back in the 90s, it had its run, and what do you attest to would be the reason that this thing fizzled out? Because it was gangbusters. You had 32 different owners, 25 teams, whatever, along the way. Would you say unionization? Would you say greed? What do you think was the reason that this thing fell apart?
Well, the people that own the arenas were having their own problems with hockey and basketball back then, and that's where their big investment was. For us, you're as good as your weakest link, and we never had the strong owners were there, but there were weak owners,
Mm-hmm.
and that's and that's what caused havoc. But I'll tell you what's amazing here, that the millions of kids that are playing indoor soccer and the thousands of facilities, indoor soccer facilities, and they have them in Canada too. So something has come out of it other than viewing a professional sport. I wish I had the answer to your question, because at that point I was back trying to buy apartments. But it's a shame. It's a shame because, but it's coming back. Oh, let me say something. Okay, let me answer your question this way. We're at a meeting, and there was a guy by the name of Ed Garvey. Remember that name?
Mm-hmm. I do.
Okay, and we're sitting there, and we decided to start a union. So Jerry Buss was at the meeting, and they don't know, the Lakers or whatever. Uh, they come from a different world. They're good people. They come from a different world. And what happened is that they put a salary that you have to spend so much money, right? Well, Jerry had the money. Joe Robbie had the money, but there's a lot of other people that didn't have the money, and you had this salary thing over your head, and it's a shame because that's one of the reasons. Plus the fact that in order for something to become successful today, you got to have TV coverage. Have it, and we didn't have it. But right now, what's happening is that there's, I guess, 19 indoor soccer teams. And not in major arenas, but in arenas.
Right.
And they're doing well. Doing well means coming back every year, fans, get a fan base and so on. And that's good. That's good. I was out in San Diego a year ago, and people out there love indoor soccer. Right? They got a good team. They're building a facility, by the way, for indoor soccer. Can you believe it? So it's come a long way.
But you also did way back. I'm just going to twist us back a little bit. You did the right things originally. Marketing. You got Shep Messing in there, and that was the most popular American at the time. What a great way to market.
Yeah, we went after Shep, and we signed Shep to a contract, $50,000, and we took that contract and we assigned it to the New York team, to the Arrows.
Mm-hmm.
And Shep was everything that we wanted. Today, Shep is running the league. There's three guys that are running the league, and Shep is one of them.
Right.
Shep is he's a Harvard graduate. There's more to Shep. He's a showman. He's Shep. Shep was our greatest find.
But you also did your homework in another sense, and this was really, really smart, was that you knew that this league had to be in the wintertime. People weren't going to go indoors in the summer.
That was something that was pondered back and forth. There were arenas that say, we'll come in and own the team if you come in June, July, and August. Mm-hmm. But especially, back east here, it's so pretty this time of year that people want to go outdoors. I'm sure the same thing in Canada.
Mm-hmm.
And so we ended up going in the winter, and I don't regret it. I think it's where it's belongs because indoor is played. Well, let's take Philadelphia. There's about 8 indoor facilities, and they fill them up in the winter. They don't fill them up in the summer.
Of course. But it all came down to thinking. How the real estate background was huge because you knew how to put all the pieces together. It wasn't just going blind into things. You and Earl, you guys did a great job in piecing this together so that you had a whole package to sell.
We did, we did, and it is. We became friendly with the people that we sold it to, mm-hmm. and we looked after them, and that's why we ran the league. They wanted Earl to run the league and me to run the league. And I always said that it could have been me, not Earl, but Earl was older than me. But which he loved. But to answer your question, it's you're as good as the people that run the franchise. You're as good as the arena. It takes a lot. But the fact that what we're talking about today between lacrosse and indoor soccer, we're still talking about it. It's there. After 47 years, it's there.
Yeah.
Something has to be right.
And it's still with the rules and more or less everything that you guys put in. So even when you're watching the kids, you're still seeing the fruits of your labor.
There was a guy by the name of Walt Chisowitz who was a national team coach. And Earl and I hired him to be our soccer person. And Walt's in my office, and we're talking the early stages. And I said, Walt, listen, it's never going to work with a goal 4x16. It's crazy. It was like a hockey net extended. So Walt says to me, on your desk, and it was 6x12. And that's what the goal was today, is 6x12. And that's how it came about. And what we did is that we went down to Houston, and we experimented, with different size goals. But 6x12 worked out perfect. We had a TV camera to see that it should be a red ball, which was great. And in all fairness, I think that the Canadians and the American players really, really adopted indoor soccer.
It's not a surprise. The weather here in North America isn't as friendly in the winter as it is in the summer to soccer,
Right.
at least anyway.
Right.
Yeah, so that'd be pretty good. Very quickly, what are you doing right now?
What am I doing right now? I'm trying
What
to
keeps you
recover.
busy?
My kids.
Well, that's good.
I'm sorry. I take that back. My grandchildren.
There you go.
Yeah. I'll probably go and visit as many indoor soccer teams as I can. The same thing with lacrosse if they want me to. But that keeps me busy. You get older, and you can't compete. And you guys are young. You guys know what's happening more than I do. And that's what's important.
I hear you. Well, listen, it really was a lot of fun having you on. It was very informative, very interesting, and all due respect for what you've been and what you've done over your time. We really appreciate the contribution you made to, of course, MISL and, of course, lacrosse as well. The AstroTurf story is one that's very important because I used to do the play-by-play of a team called the Toronto Beaches, and they played on concrete. So I appreciate the AstroTurf thing. Thank you for being on.
Guys, thank you for having me. And I look forward to seeing you guys in person someday.
Absolutely.
Thank you.
I can't wait. I can't wait. Once the borders open, I will be up in the Philadelphia area. So I can't wait.
Ed, thank you very much for being on the program.
Thank you so much for having me.
Okay, Gary, thanks for being on the program as well.
Thank you, Frank.
Thank you.
It's been a great week.
Everybody have a great week. Thank you, Gary. And of course, for Ed Tepper, I'm Candid Frank Stanisci. Thank you for watching Lacrosse Talk, seen live Thursdays at 4 p.m. Eastern Standard Time. This show can also be heard on the Spanglish World Radio Network. For Lacrosse Talk, news, entertainment, and other sports programming we offer, please check out SpanglishWorld.ca. Spanglish World. Watch it, hear it, read it, download it, and live it. Thank you for watching, everybody. Until next Thursday. We'll see you then.
Thank you, guys.